Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Masterwork Show tonight. My name is Jason Meyer of Meyer Studio. And tonight we're going to be looking at one of my very favorite artists. If you ever wondered how you would paint peace and silence, you're going to want to pay attention to this. The thing this artist was able to do was incredible. And this artist's name is, there he is right there, Hovsep Pushman, from 1877 to 1966. He was an American artist with Armenian background. And so without further ado, let's jump over and we're going to be looking at a few of his tonight. Hello, Shakti. Good to see you. I think you're going to like this artist. Susan, good to see you as well. Both of you guys in for a marathon today. So today I was rather enthusiastic, and I think this artist is very appropriate for kind of winding down the day. I introduced him as someone who can paint silence or peace. And before I get in and technically talk about any of them, why don't we just look at a few of them tonight, and then maybe we can go in and see if the things we talked about today hold true, right? And what did we talk about today? Well, it's about how the light on the objects are lighter than the background, and the shadows on the objects are darker than the background. And I know when you first hear that, that can seem like a very limiting factor. But what makes anything special is the limiting factor. What makes a certain game that certain game are the limiting rules. Right? The same is true with oil paint. But within the constraints of oil paint, what is possible is breathtaking, if you ask me. So all the paintings we'll be looking at tonight again are by Hovsep Pushman. And I really like this. It reminds me of the idea that in spirituality, when they talk about stillness, an immature understanding of that might be to try to hold everything perfectly still and not let anything move. And how our understanding of that stillness develops, we might come to understand that it's more of like a non-resistance to the current that you're in. And so even with activity and life and everything going on, there's a great flow. Right? So with all the activity and action and movement in the background, it still holds its lane. It never overtakes the foreground. This is one of my personal favorites because of the richness of the tones. Right? Every painting and artist has the strength and weaknesses. And for me, the tones of Pushman, the moods he set, the distance between the values, I mean, honestly, it's almost overwhelming. I mean, it's hard to almost imagine something more beautiful. To me, and we all respond to different things. Part of your job as an artist is to notice what you respond to. What's going on here? Again, it's the same idea over and over in one way, but there's a million different iterations of it. Just like the sun comes up every day. But what 2 days are alike? In 2020, all of them and none of them, right? You know, look at all the imagery in the background. Yet does it ever intrude upon his foreground? Never. It actually acts as a critical element of the foreground as far as balance goes. And how is he doing this? How is this a different mood than the other ones? Yes, of course, some of it's color, but mostly it's about the distance between the values. In this one, on that big statue, is the background closer to the shadow value? Or is the background closer to the light value? Closer to the shadow value. And that's why that light is so impactful. Right? Which is quite different than that. So if we look underneath the big statue's arm, that shadow is pretty stinking dark. We might even call that black. And then the light on the face is like almost white. But then you have the blue in the light. So that background, is that closer to the light? Or is that closer to the shadow? This one is closer to the light. And so it gives a different feeling. Right? The light isn't so shocking coming out of the dark. Again, in class today, I was saying you have to see the finish before you begin, and the finish can only come from you. Could this be painted in the same measure as the one we just saw? Well, of course it could, but he didn't. It's at a different measure, right? And that makes all the difference, all the difference. Again, a different mood. How can we look at a Pushman with an ugly arrow sitting on that screen? Sorry about that. That was offensive. Again, before I say anything, let's just have a look. How do these things feel to you? Do any of your paintings ever get a feeling like any of these? off of there. So what kind of still life is this? Right, this, with statues, there's as much movement in this as there is in some of Karen's dances. Do you guys see that? All right, for any of you who are brand new, I was been a little enthusiastic all day. So we're just unwinding here a little bit and looking at some Hovsep Pushmans in quiet. All right, let's see where we're at here. This may have been the last one I had in mind. We'll finish with this one, and then we'll go back and talk about some of these. Oops, there's that ugly arrow again. There we go. So if you guys will, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. If you guys will permit me, let's talk about a little bit of these, some of these. Notice how all the elements, see a little tree limb with some sticking in, points down to the light of the bowl. We're picked up with the color. We come up the robe. This is going to give us pause. And then we're released into all this activity back here. Right? It almost looks like a hunt or something. I don't know. It's kind of like a dance, but they're headed into the forest. What is going on? But even the lightest part back here is darker than our light. And our shadow is darker than the back, right? So that makes that come, well, what about that? Darker, yeah. Lighter than, yeah. Check. Check, check, check. So why is this so quiet? Well, the dark is definitely darker than the, but that light is almost that same value. But it's just got more yellow. It comes forward a little bit in color. And then a little bit of white just to make sure it's a little stronger. So what that causes is this to be quiet. So even though this is very interesting, right, drawing wise and everything else, look how it's so quiet, it kind of releases us down here to the white. Remember what we said about white today? It's the most powerful, right? Surrounded on both sides by that. And look how close the top of that. And so again, you get the idea of transcendence because you move so easily between, there's ways to get in and out of each object. Do you guys see that? Usually we go, oh, well, yeah, he outlined everything. Is that true? Did he really outline everything? That's maybe a little bit there. That seems pretty. That seems pretty open. Seems relatively open. Right. I can easily get in and out through here. But yeah, on first glance, it does look like everything's locked up in line. But that's just the artist playing with you. This one, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The activity and the hard line, but how specific that shape is on that side, combined with the gesture. Is so powerful. Susan says, I'm just getting the gray between the light and the dark. It's nice to see that the gray moved closer to the light or to the dark and how that affects the mood. Yeah, that's the point. It's one thing for me to say it, but it's another thing for you to see it. And wow, that's some mood. Now let me ask you something. If this really active shape was the only active shape in here, it would be out of place. And so, yeah, these are kind of active shapes, but this is okay because look, you didn't even see that, did you? But look how active this is. So what that is, that's almost a step off of this activity to, a repetition, but much lighter. And look, and where's this literally pointing to? Boom. Where is that literally? Boom. Looking. Boom. Right? So we're all moving through here, but there's nothing to look at here. There's a little dot, but then immediately we're attracted to the light and the color right here. Tricky, tricky, tricky. How do we move through this so fast that we're not wanting more detail? Well, it's because the strength of the shadow gives you the information you think you need. Then as he gets down here, look, he comes up with quote unquote more details to slow you down. And then he's got the most right here as we move back to there. Right? So, so beautiful. And yeah, this is going to be too light in most cases. But if you now I seriously doubt this is pure white. I can almost promise you it's not. But in the reproductions and then showed on the computer screen, it's looking pure white. Oh, you can't see my arrow? I'm sorry. There we go. Now the arrow's back. Anyway, I was showing the movement through here, and then so we're landing here, but there's nothing to see, so we're instantly pulled by the color and the light. Right? And we move through here quickly, and then as these values are closer, the kind of detail, but that shape really is much quieter than this shape. So as an artist, you want to learn to sometimes use values, sometimes use detail, sometimes use color, and use all of these in conjunction. So it's not that the value is doing all the work by itself, or the color's the edge is doing the work. But it's just a beautiful dance between all of them. This one's so special. Look how... Okay, let's just for one moment. This is just easy. That's so easy. But look, this is happening in shallow space, but yet we come forward, we go back, and then we go back even. And look how he is just an extension of her movement. The repetition, the blue repeated and repeated, and then we could even say it's repeated there and brought into the black there. So usually if you say, hey Jason, I want to do a yellow background, I'm going to lose my stuff and go, what? No! But if your name's Hovsep Pushman, do that yellow background, buddy. But even with that yellow background, look, it takes pure white to overcome that. But he uses that. And again, it's not probably pure white. right? And then some strong red. So anything is possible in the right relationship. I'm sorry, I was just stunned into silence. Right? This one almost makes me feel like, shh, I think God's here. Right? We're afraid to raise our voice or scare it off. It's like a wind, a whisper, but it's powerful. Boom. Look how effectively he's used silhouette in between the light, dark light of that. And if we looked carefully here, is that echoed here? If we look carefully here, is that echoed here? Did he switch those? Dominant, subordinate, and then, yeah. Dang, he's tricky. And look, this yellow, white is repeated back here. I mean, what can you say? What can you say? But I wanted to show Pushman tonight because some of his is very lively like this and very active. And some of his is downright sacred. But can you have a dancing God in the background? Again, no. No, 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 no. And don't quit asking me. Quit doing it. If your name's Hovsep Pushman, please. Right? So again, anything goes as long as you handle, right? This dancing God is not overcoming. Oh my God, look what he's put back. You can't have that in the background. That's too bright. He says, okay, and does it anyway, and makes it work. Wow. Wow. Bam, stunned silence. Can you leave this much space? No, never. It can't be done. Unless you're Hovsep Pushman. Wow. He has balanced this with nothing. Look at the work that this little dark does. That wow. I mean, that's about all I can say here. And then you put your nose in it and you're going, this is nothingness? What? Well, if this is your somethingness, then guess what? Yeah, that's going to read as nothingness. Did that table look bright yellow to you? Oh, sorry. Sorry. That's more of a baby diaper color. But it's in the right relationship, so it works. Right? When we look at these things, they don't necessarily in themselves look like they're very delicately painted. I've had the privilege of seeing some of these backgrounds in person. And let me tell you, they're not how I teach painting background. On most of them, there's some extremely thick paint on there. Right? If your car drove over it, you would feel the vibration. Yet he somehow kept it so quiet. So as long as it works in the whole, it's allowed. And this one honestly brings me to tears almost every time I see it. I mean, it's something about the richness of those tones. Yeah, this is a beautiful color, but it's beautiful because of all these warms. I mean, look how we've got this movement through here that's continued right onto the background. And then that's counterbalanced by these little guys clowning around over here. Hey, you kids, stop it. We're trying to have a sacred ceremony. Right? Those kids, that's as sacred as, right? The God and the King on his throne. It's all sacred. Can you have this dark in your back? No. Hovsep said, okay, and did it anyway, but then gave it such soft edges and was able to let that dark breathe somehow that it went back behind this dark. It went back behind that dark. It went back behind this dark. So even though this is a dark, it's reading and working as a background precisely because of the strength of the foreground. You can do this much in the background precisely because this much was done in the foreground. And so of course this much is okay in the background when your foreground is this much. But if your foreground's really quiet, you can't do that. I mean, almost all I can do is point and hope you're seeing what I'm showing you. Look at the sophistication of that background. Is this the same as that? No, ma'am, no, sir, no way, and twice no on Sundays. Is this the same as that? No. Look at how he moves you through this background. Look at how he makes sure that you have an experience. Because there's such variety between this, and this. You remember the petroglyphs of Suez today that we looked at? And I said, you got the right idea, but we need major change for the viewer to have major experience. This, from here to that, is a major change. This and this to this and that is a major change. This to this and to this and to that and to that and to this and to that are some major changes. So the viewer's going to have some major experiences here. I hope this is all tying together for you guys. No, you can't have that much in your background. Unless you put this much in your foreground. Again, when you hear quote unquote these rules, the background has to be in between the foreground light and the foreground shadow. Why? You just don't want me to be a creative. You're trying to control me. No. Be as creative as you want. Just do it within those parameters and see what happens. See what... You want to go crazy in the background? Go crazy. You want red, you want green, you want orange, you want white, you want do it. But you know what? You better have more of every one of those things in the foreground. Okay? Wow. Wow, you can do that with paint? Paint is capable of that? Wow. Right? I don't even want to point it out. I just want you to look and see. I want you to look and see. Ask yourself, why does that pink red leaf come off of that background? And no, it's not in front of that background. It is right next to it. Right? If you looked at this canvas and you studied this canvas, that pink is right next to that blue-green. It's not in front of it. It's not behind. Yet visually, that background recedes. You know, that nearly brings tears to my eyes. That's the whole reason I do this, is so that you can see. And once you see it, you get control. Right? And then it's not about, oh, where do I buy this brightest green? It's about, what do I want to say? How much can I say with paint? And you can say a lot, but you got to think about what you're talking about. Okay, guys, I am 5 minutes over. I'm losing my voice. So this introvert is holding true. Live 3 times a day, 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 8 p.m., all Pacific Standard Time. Please hit the little red button you see on your screen and subscribe to our channel. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. All right? I hope to see everybody tomorrow. I hope this was as beautiful for you as it was me. Honestly, I don't know someone who does more with paint than this man does. And again, very different than Rembrandt or David, but wow. just as impactful. There's not one way to paint, but there's your way to paint. But that can only come from you, and you have to decide how that is. All right. So I think we had a good day today. I'm going to see if I can crawl out of bed tomorrow and do it again. Actually, I'm so pumped up, I can't even believe it. So thank you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.